Alright guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today. For this one, we are doing another out and about video for you. So, as you might have seen from my last video that I did at Beer Force, I'm in Singapore just now, and one of the places I was told that I needed to come and check out was this one, Little Island Brewing Company. So these guys have a few locations across Singapore. This is the original one, so I'm actually out at Changhi Village, which is away out in the east of Singapore just now. I had a little walk around before I filmed this introduction. It looks pretty cool, and we'll do as we always do. We'll go in, we'll taste some of the beers. I've been told the food here is really nice as well, so I think we're going to have a nice couple of hours making this video today, and yeah, hopefully a better experience here than we had at Pink Blossoms Brewing Company. So yeah, let's get cracking with this one, see what we do. Little Island Brewing Company, the OG location in Changhi Village. Let's get started. Alright guys, so let's do a little walk around of Little Island Brewing Company's location at Changhi Village. So the bus let me off just like up here. This is the one of the famous Singapore hawker centres, so you know, little market shops and things like that. And then you know, you basically come down the back and you have Little Island Brewing Company, and from what I understand, this is actually part of the Hawkers Market. It was a building that just never really kind of filled up. So yeah, you can see outside they've got this lovely kind of terrace area. We've got some kids playing around, a big massive fan as well. That's something I've never seen at a brewery before, but yeah, I guess in Singapore it's needed. So yeah, up there you've got this little terraced area as well. Obviously they do some live music and things like that. And yeah, if you come down here, this is the kind of food hall part of the brewery. So yeah, we'll need to get some of the food and try it out, because I've heard very good things about the food. This is the main bar up here. We'll just move a bit forward a bit so it looks nicer. But yeah, you can see the bar is here. And then yeah, we'll have a little look at their tap list a bit later on. But yeah, if we go back out this way, you can see, if we come round here, the other parts of the bar. So you've got this little bit here, which is where you order and you get a card and you put money on it. You've got another little bit of seating in here. We'll have a little closer look at these things later on in the video. But yeah, some spirits and things as well, and these are all your different beers and stuff like that that you can order. We'll get back to that in a second too. But yeah, so I've already filmed the first review, but you guys will be seeing it in just a second. So let's squeeze through here. There we go. And I am joined by Dr. Joe, who saw the video I made about Pink Blossoms Brewing Company. He messaged me, he came out to join me. And so yeah, he's going to join in on one or two of the tastings. But this is the beer review, the beer that we are going to review in just a second. This is the Naked Lager. So I'll catch you in just a little second with that review. Cheers. Alright guys, well, time for our first tasting then here at Little Island OG location. So, as I often like to do, we're starting with a lager because it's really hot. I'm white as a milk bottle. Scottish, Swedish people don't do very well with the heat. Well, Swedish better than Scottish, but that's another story. Anyway, so this one is called Naked Lager. Comes in at 5.1% ABV. This is the first time you're getting a look at the glass, so you can see it's got, yeah, it's like a little burger almost actually with the thing inside it. I do like the glass, and you've got this kind of, this is an IPA glass actually, which is quite interesting. The little kids over there are having fun with their electric Jeep, if you're wondering what the torture in the background is. But yeah, anyway, as you can see, lovely pale golden straw colour. Not too much in the way of visible carbonation. You can see the beer is sweating because it's, oh, I don't even know what the temperature is, what, like 30 degrees or something?
34 today.
34 today, yeah. So there you go. Not made for Scottish people. But yeah, not too much in the way of visible carbonation. In terms of what you'd expect, I'm guessing this beer is going to be something along the lines of like a German Helles or a Czech, maybe Svetli lager. So let's have a wee look at the nose. When it poured, incidentally, about a finger of a frothy, kind of creamy white coloured head, but that's died away. But yeah, aroma. Oh yeah, Helles. German Helles all the way. You can kind of smell it because of the hops and the malts. The thing that distinguishes it from the Czech one is that it's not madly spicy and it's like floral elements. It's definitely kind of smoother and brighter, so that's Hallertau or Tettnang, definitely. The malt is definitely German as well, just the way the breadiness is, you can smell that. But yeah, a little bit of like fresh white bready bread crust in there, maybe a wee hint of, you know, a sweeter, like wholemeal brown bread, a little hint of that, but mainly a white bread, like a fresh white bread. There's a good little bit of like biscuit, you know, McVitie's digestive biscuits. I wouldn't go as far as saying caramel, definitely more of a biscuity note for sure. You wouldn't expect caramel from a Helles lager, maybe from like an amber, like a Märzen or a Letzak, say, or even a Vienna lager, but that's a different style completely. But I think that's everything about the malty base. It maybe has a little bit of like crackery, woody sort of stuff from the yeast as well. But all in all, I think that covers the malty yeasty side of it. Hoppy side we've mentioned a little bit already. Nice little bit of a kind of smooth, light earthiness, little touch herbal. Nice bit of floral aromaticity. It has got a wee bit of brightness to it, but quite, I think the green component really leans more toward like a fresh, you know, freshly cut grass type thing. Fruity wise, it's, you know, things that are typical of you know, Hallertau hops. There's maybe like a little touch of pear. There's a little bit of like a very slightly, you know, a very slight fresh green apple. Maybe like a teeny bit of apricot, something like that. These are all typical things to find in like a German Helles lager, but I'm quite convinced from the aroma it is German Helles rather than Czech Letzak. I think we can say that. Svetli, sorry, not Letzak. Letzak is the amber one. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, at that, I think we've said everything we need about the aroma. Very inviting. I'm thirsty as fuck, to be honest with you, because it's very hot. Let's have a taste of this one. So this is Naked Lager, my first beer here at Little Island Brewing Company. Or I was going to say Little Island Beer Company. No, Little Island Brewing Company. Slàinte, skål, cheers. That's solid. That is pretty damn solid, actually. You know, if you want something like just really easygoing and drinkable, that's exactly what this beer gives you. You can tell this one, it is a wee bit different from what you're going to find in Germany, for example. And, you know, that happens. In hot countries like this, you want the beer to be drinkable, and so it feels, to me, this feels a little bit wetter. It does feel a little bit lighter and a little bit wetter than what you're going to find in Germany. Not quite as dry, that's for sure. But the flavour profile is spot on. That's one of the things. You have to remember too, different water profiles are going to affect your beer, and I know that in Singapore the water is drinkable, but I'm not sure about its suitability for brewing, so probably they treat their water. We can ask them later.
Most of the brewers will RO their water.
Ah, okay.
So it's 0. So you can
Makes
start
sense.
whatever water profile you want.
Yeah, makes sense. So yeah, that probably explains it. As I say, this just feels a bit wetter to me than what you're going to find. The Helles is from Munich or Dortmund, so it feels a bit more. And I should point out, it is a Munich Helles. It's a bready Helles, not a hoppy Helles. We'll be clear on that. But yeah, middle of your palate, malty side of things, lovely kind of fresh hedgehog, bread crusty backbone. Further forward on that middle 30 pack, little touch of wood. You can feel a little bit of cracker in there. Then it's like fluffy, fresh white bread, definitely.
Nice hit of DMS.
Oh yeah. It has got that little bit of sweetness to it for sure. You can taste, like, you get a little circle in the middle of your palate. You've got biscuit in the base of that, and then you have that more oily, sweet biscuity flavour in the middle, and of course that's the alcohol in the beer that's coming out. So definitely a wee bit more of, definitely got that wee bit of alcoholic sweetness to it. And that lingers into the aftertaste too, but you get more and more of the bread into the aftertaste. The yeasty character at the back of the palate's got a little bit more cracker to it. It almost has, yeah, it's like a really dry, crackery note you get out of that, and that's quite nice too, because it does give the beer some of that authentic German dryness, for sure. But I think we don't need to say much else about the malty, yeasty side of things. Hoppy side of the beer, back corners of your palate, kind of smooth, kind of earthy. As you move further forward, it's a little bit herbal. And then as you push further forward, you get a little bit of floral aromaticity. But like I said, this beer really leans toward the kind of wet, freshly cut, grassy sort of thing. That's really what you're getting out of this one. And it's not that bitter either. Not really too much bitterness. Front third of your palate, You can feel it's the same again. You've got the bread crust, the white bread, and then above that you get that nice oily bubble where the fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. It's kind of what I was picking up in the aroma. There's a little bit of apricot in there, there's a wee bit of pear, maybe a little bit of a freshly cut grass, maybe a little bit of gooseberry as well. It's like these kind of typical flavours that you're getting from the style. So what I always look for in these lagers is, are they true to style? Are they giving you the right flavour profile? And this one is. It's giving you a really nice kind of straight up German Helles type, Munich Helles type profile, and you can't ask for much more than that. It's quite dangerously drinkable, this one, at 5%, you know, you could easily tan a few of these, no bother, not a problem. Yeah, so, yeah, mouthfeel wise, as I say, light bodied, carbonation doesn't have that, it's a bit strange, it doesn't have so much carbonation, it just feels wetter and it's refreshing because of that. The malt base has a wee bit of dryness, bit of smoothness, and that little bit of sweetness in there. IBU wise, 20 maybe, 15 or 20. It's not going to blow the head off you in terms of bitterness. And the fruitiness is, yeah, a little bit dry as well, that's the other thing. So all in all, a very good introduction to Little Island Brewing Company. That's our first beer. So I've got a friend Joe with me, he's going to jump into one of the tastings later, but we decided, yeah, we're going to go for the lager first, and because that's a good place to start. It is always a very good place to start. So as I say, probably going to try some of the food. I'll show you the menus and stuff, but this is the first thing we needed to film because I was very thirsty. Catch you guys in just a second. So yeah guys, quite an unusual way of getting your beer here at Little Island Brewing. So you put your money on a card and then you come up here and you'll be served. And they've got these little machines. Apparently it started out as like a kind of self-service thing, and that's why they've got these little machines. But yeah, the beers that they have on tap today, and I'm here on the 29th of March 2024, just so you know. They've got the Hefeweizen, the Galaxy IPA, the Lager, a Golden Ale, Dry Irish Stout, Penny Lane, which is an English Pale Ale, American IPA, East Coast IPA, then over here they've got the Belgian Double. So I think this is the only beers of their own that they have, but they've got a few other things here. Obviously they've got Aspal Cider, and it looks like they've got some of their own kombuchas and cocktails and stuff like that actually, which is quite interesting. Some sodas as well. Maybe we need to try some of the sodas, apple spritzer, ginger beer, passion fruit coolers and stuff like this. So yeah, it's interesting for sure. But yeah, these are the beers up this end, the right hand side of the bar. These are all of the different beers that you're going to get here at Little Island Brewing Company. So yeah, a little quick look at your tap list, and a wee bit different to what we normally have in these videos. So yeah, that's that. Alright guys, well, time for tasting number 2 then here, and this is Dr. Joe's beer. Oh. So you can introduce this one.
I didn't make this beer, but yeah, I've been coming to Little Island for quite some time. We're going to be drinking something called Stars and Bars, which is their American IPA. So if you think about the old school West Coast IPA, this is pretty close. It's hopped in a very old school way. It probably uses very old school hops like Mosaic, Cascade, maybe.
The old sea hops.
Yeah. So just a nice bitterness. Very biscuity, because look at the color of the beer. I mean, it's really malty. So expect a lot of biscuit in this one. So the malt profile in this one is going to be a little more hefty as well.
Yeah, this is going to have American Turo.
Yeah.
And stuff. Yeah.
So it's already looking a lot like you know, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale.
Oh, yeah. Sierra Nevada. For me, I always loved the Torpedo. Yeah, Torpedo was like.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, when it poured, about a finger of a frothy, I would say, kind of cream fawn coloured head. You can see lovely sort of unstained mahogany, blood orange type colour.
Absolutely.
It is clear, this one. Remember, one of the key things about West Coast IPAs is that they use primarily barley malt, so the haze that you get in New England mainly comes from the oat and the wheat, and to a degree the yeast. Yeah. This is filtered because it should, you know, normally it would have a little bit of natural haze to it. Yeah. But remember, colour of your beer depends on the type of malts you use. Length of your wort boil is going to play a role as well, and any adjuncts will do it, but you don't have to care about adjuncts really when it comes to IPAs.
So this is kind of what my palate wants right now after the hazy. So we're kind of coming back to these clear, old school West Coasty, very clean, like, you know, with IPAs with clean bitters, right? You just want that kind of nice clean bitter profile to come through. Yeah.
Oh, so
yeah, that's it. Yeah, let's taste it.
Will we do the nose? Or?
I like to do the nose midway through because you've got more of a headspace, and so maybe so that's my own particular tasting thing because they always like to fill the glasses up, and when you do your own tastings, they're always like halfway through.
Okay, let's try it that way then.
So absolutely, cheers.
Slange it. Couldn't resist taking a wee sniff first.
So again, that mouth feels. On that first beer, you were describing something as watery. I think this comes through again in that brew style. It's a little more watery than you would expect, right? A little
wetter,
dry.
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually getting quite a little bit of a kind of rye, bready, grainy sort
spicy,
of thing.
right?
Yeah, spicy.
A bit spiciness, yeah. So part of that might be the hop profile as well. So again, Little Island has a particular style of beer, and they've brewed their beer this way because their customer base wants it this way. And so in the early days of brewing, a lot of beers had pretty significant hop burn. And strangely, on the Singaporean palate, bitter doesn't come through as badly as it does on most other palates.
Okay,
so
interesting.
So I still remember when I started beer guiding in the early days and would talk about well, this beer's really going to be bitter, and people would be like, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, one thing we should say as well is that Joe is actually a Cicerone as well. So we never mentioned that earlier. So yeah, we're picking up interesting facts.
So we're just nerding out about beer here. So yeah.
Basically, yeah, but that's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll try to give you as many stats as you want, but again, in terms of the color, right? It's not really not a contemporary IPA color. Contemporary IPA colors usually run about 5, maybe 4 or 5 SRM. This one's running closer to 10, maybe. It's really quite amber.
I mean, in Europe, a lot of the, and this is the interesting thing too, like people's point of reference is different. So like for me, a lot of the IPAs I would have had were brewed with like crystal malt, Germany.
Absolutely.
Whereas a lot of the stuff you get in the States is brewed with the American two rows.
That's
and then
right.
Australia has its own malts and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah. This is worth bearing in mind because for me this colour isn't abnormal.
No.
This colour isn't so abnormal.
In fact, actually, it's not abnormal, but it's definitely very old school for an American IPA to be this color. Yeah, that's why we're talking like Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. Yeah.
Oh right, you mean like in terms of the new, the current IPA? Right?
That's right. Yeah.
I get where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, no. Flavour-wise, then.
Oh yeah.
For me, middle of the palate, I like to split the palate into thirds. So middle third of the palate where you get most of the malty stuff. It's like rye bread crust is the base.
Absolutely.
There is that. I always get a little bit of woodiness as well. There's a little bit of that. Then you have straight up rye bread, a bit of wholemeal brown bread above that.
A bit of pumpernickel, maybe.
That's pumpernickel. That's rye bread, German rye bread. Yeah. And then above that, I think you get like a light layer of like a toasty caramel.
Yes,
And
definitely.
Then in the middle of your, like on top of that, there's a slightly leathery caramelly layer. But usually when we talk about leathery flavours on the channel, it's about like length of wort boil in an imperial stout or a barley wine.
Yeah.
It's not quite like that in here, but there is a little bit of a leathery brown sugar note.
Yeah.
And then in the centre of the palate, where the booziness is kind of concentrated, and this is only 6.5%. We're not even in the range of 7, which is quite normal on the west coast in the States. It's like quite a dry caramel, I'd say. It's straight up caramel, but it is a dry caramel.
Yeah, and there's some burnt sugar as well. That might be some of that burnt sugar bitterness you kind of get at the end. Maybe a bit of creme brulee, and that's just again, I think the use of the malt. Yeah, and that's giving kind of that bitterness as well. So it is quite sweet on my palate. So I don't know about you. I'm getting quite a bit of residual sweetness on this one. Yeah,
I can see that. Like for me, it's actually quite grainy and dry. That's why I'm getting into the aftertaste. But the dry, the sweetness in the middle of the palate, there is like this dry, caramelly sweetness. So that's interesting. Like if I was blind tasting this, I would probably guess it was like a rye IPA.
Yeah,
I probably would guess that.
Yeah, because it's pretty spicy, and again, like I was saying, right, with that hop burn, there is quite a bit of astringency on my palate for this one on the finish. So now that we're halfway through, maybe we should just do the aroma.
Yeah, let's have a look at the nose then, and then we'll come back and do the hoppy side. Yeah. Oh yeah, so much bread.
Yeah.
So much bread.
Yeah, so it's just so much more, and it's beautiful in the headspace, and you can just appreciate so much more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No,
And the beers come up to temp a little bit, but beers tend to come up to temp quite quickly in this temperature.
oh yeah. I mean, look at you can see the glasses. The glass is sweating as much as me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for me, it's rye bread, wholemeal brown bread. I mean, you were saying pumpernickel earlier.
Oh, yeah.
That's definitely fair.
Yeah.
Maybe
Maybe even a little bit of black bread.
oh yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
again, it's sweet, right? So quite grainy, quite
Yeah.
a bit of grainy sweetness.
Yeah, it's almost got a bit of an oatmeal-y type thing as well. That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
This is definitely, when I think about West Coast IPAs, this is definitely one of the most bready leaning ones I've had.
Oh, yeah.
This is definitely one of the most bready leaning ones.
Very old school. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you reference any of the old school West Coast IPAs or pale ales, you're going to be talking about. Don't forget, they're very close to the English IPA, the original document,
Oh,
because
yeah,
that's what
yeah.
they were trying to brew, right? But they
yeah.
just didn't have the. I mean, the hops were different and the malts were different, and,
And
so.
then, and then came Cascade and changed it.
That's right.
1979, Chico, where it all began. Yeah. The hoppy side of things with this one, it's interesting because it's not too pungent, and you wouldn't expect that from West Coast IPAs. Because remember, 3 kinds of hopping: early edition hopping, first hour of your wort boil, gives you a really deep dank aroma and flavour. Late edition hopping, mainly responsible for flame aroma and a little bit of bitterness, but it gives you a very bright green component. And dry hopping after the wort boil is complete. That gives you like pretty much all flavour and aroma.
Yeah.
So New England IPAs rely on late and dry hopping for the most part.
Absolutely.
West Coast IPAs use all 3, which is why they have this deeper, danker thing. This one, aroma-wise,
No.
I'd say not.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that deeper, danker
Yeah.
thing. It is more. It's not. It's just not quite as pronounced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, we had that lager together the first time around. This is almost smelling like that lager, right?
Oh,
Except
yeah,
for
yeah.
that, except for all the fruity esters, right? From the ale. The ale yeast are producing all
Yeah.
these fruity esters. But a lot of grain esters and a lot of fermentation esters in the nose in ale for an ale, but not much in terms of hop.
Yeah,
right?
it's a wee bit herbal, a wee bit earthy, and
That's
a bit
right.
grassy.
Yeah, very rustic, right? Kind of
Yeah,
a
yeah.
rustic hop profile.
Yeah,
maybe.
it kind of reminds you a little bit of like Kent Goldings almost, rather
That's
than.
right.
And it's probably from the flavour. We'll come back to the flavour in a minute, but I'm pretty sure Cascade is in this. Centennial wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, maybe even a little bit of Chinook.
See, that it's hard to tell that because normally it's pine resin, but you don't get so much.
Yeah,
of it,
and this is
Yeah.
I don't know, on my palate at least we're getting a lot of pine resin on this one. It's really resinous. It's not kind of like that danky epoxy resin that you're getting, but a lot of pine resin for sure. So on that,
I think there's Amarillo in this as well. Because but that Mosaic is definitely
yeah,
an option too. But yeah, for me on the fruity side of things, orange.
yeah,
You're getting that
for sure.
sort of figgy
Orange peel.
Yeah, you're
right?
getting that sort of figgy, peary kind of thing that you
Yeah.
can get from Cascades. Not really much in the way of grapefruit.
Yeah, definitely orange peel, right? There's definitely the peel in this. It's pretty tangy.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a lemony limey note to it as well. So yeah, yeah, that's quite interesting.
And again, I'm going to come back to the whole rustic hop profile again on this one, right? Kind of woody and really leafy.
Oh yeah, that's fair. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Again,
Autumn leaves, yeah.
yeah, so, one of the people I drink with routinely describes us as Sylvan. He's got better words than I do, yeah, but, very foresty, right?
Yeah.
Leaf fall, rotting logs, yeah.
Yeah, does Singapore even have an autumn? Is it not just like this all the time? I've heard that.
No, yeah, you're in the middle of you're in the middle of the 3 seasons of Singapore, hotter and hottest.
yeah, that's the thing. But no, lots of leafy thing. I think.
Yeah.
Do we need to say anything more about the aroma? That wet log thing is.
Right, kind of wet, woody. But
Yeah.
It's really kind of rotting logs, leaf fall. So I always associate this with this aroma, especially with clearing out the gutters, the rain gutters, when you have all the dead leaves and they're kind of wet. Yeah. So so you're gonna get a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite brewing hops is the Northern Brewer. So the Northern Brewer hop is really so used most mainly in a beer that's it's kind of dead now, which is Anchor Steam beer. Remember Anchor Steam beer?
Yeah.
So
that's a good shout, like the California Common.
The California Common,
it
that's
does
right.
The breadiness and kind of yeastiness you get out of this beer is actually a bit reminiscent of that.
Absolutely.
That's a good. contextual memory getting set off again.
Yeah.
For sure. So yeah, we should talk about the hoppy side of the flavour. I mean, for me, earthy, herbal at the back corners of the palate. As you come further forward, you do get a little bit of floral note to it, and I see what you're meaning now about the pine resin. That comes out into the aftertaste.
Yeah.
But it's a bit spicy. That makes me think Columbus. It does make me think, so maybe Chinook and Columbus in this one, old school sea hops.
That's
but
right.
Front curve of the tongue is quite zesty and grassy.
That's right.
That makes me think Centennial.
Yeah. So
I think sea hops and Amarillo. I think maybe.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So you've got that nice hint of, I completely agree that near the middle and the front of the palate, you're getting a lot of that citrus zest, right? So orange peel, tangerine peel for sure. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, if we go to the front third of the palate and actually look at those fruity parts of the flavour, you've got the bread crust, the rye bread, the wholemeal bread, then that oily bubble where the fruity esters come out of the beer. At the back of the front third of the palate, maybe there's a little bit of grapefruit. Yeah. That's what makes me think, you're maybe on the right track with the Chinook, which I didn't think originally. And then as you come further forward, you get this sort of like datey, sultana, peary kind of thing, cascade.
Yeah,
I think,
so you get some stone fruit and some plum fruit for sure, yeah.
So I'm pretty sure cascades. Chinook I can agree with as well, I think. And then as you go into the front half or the front third of your tongue, there is an orangey note. So the earthiness, maybe we'd say mosaic.
Yeah.
If it was I think Amarillo's usually a bit more oily and a bit more zesty for me.
Right.
So it's either mosaic or Amarillo, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be like Mandarina Bavaria or Pacifica or I think it's one of the more common ones.
Yeah.
Or Nectaron, it's the other one that's orangey these days. It's not that. It's more old school.
This is a very old school beer. I'm pretty sure the grain bill and the hop bill have not changed since they started brewing this at Little Island Brewing Company again, LIBC in Changi. Yeah.
How long ago are we talking?
Oh, good grief! You're talking numbers. I'm not. Yeah, but it's been LIBC's been around for a spell. Yeah.
10 years or so.
Yeah, probably more. Yeah, maybe.
Right.
They've been around a while. And I don't know, do you talk about food pairing at all with your beers?
No, but go ahead if you want to.
Yeah, so this particular one, I mean, like really makes me want a cheeseburger right now.
Well, that's a good point because we do have food, so we should go and see. I'm getting hungry at this point. Beer always makes me hungry, and that's what you want to do at these places. You want to come and have some beers and try the food.
For sure.
Just to round off then, mouthfeel wise, mid-bodied. Top end of mid-bodied, I would say.
Yeah.
Carbonation again on this one isn't too prickly. It's quite oily, but at the same time, the more I drink of this, the beer gets drier and more grainy.
Yeah.
It's hard to pin an IBU on this because obviously you can conflate the graininess and dryness with bitterness.
Yeah.
And I mean, so if we if we accept that, my IBU count is always my weakest point of beer review. It's always the weakest thing. I'd say it's maybe about 50, 60, something like that.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Yeah. So it's a little on the it's not terrible, but it is pretty astringent. So on some palates it can come if you're a little more sensitive to bitter flavors, and bitter melon is not your thing. This beer is going to definitely hit you in that kind of bitter melon palate sort of space with the bitter astringency. But it's overall I think it finishes pretty satisfyingly.
Yeah. No, it's really nice. It's solid. This one, I say, it really reminds me of like an old school American rye IPA.
That's right.
It's kind of like it really is like that. Fruitiness is quite oily. Green component, as I say, is more. It's still quite grassy and wet and a little bit floral, and you do get more of the piney resin later on as well.
Yeah,
I think that's a nice place to leave this one.
Oh no, absolutely, yeah.
So what was it? It was Stars and Bars.
That's right.
6.5%.
American IPA.
American, obviously a West Coasty type IPA. So there
old
are
school.
There are
old school West Coasty.
Old school West Coasty IPA. We've decided we definitely have one. We know what beer we're going to finish on. What we're going to do in between, we're not quite sure yet. So we'll leave it at that for this one, and you'll see a few more things. Catch you guys in a second. And big shout out to Joe. I'll put Joe's Instagram in the
absolutely
in the
pleasure doing
thing
this.
Of things. Oh, it's good fun. It's good fun. Good experiences in Singapore, guys. That's what we want. So yeah, guys, this is another really cool little thing about Little Island Brewing Company. They've got a little beer stein museum, so they've got 3 cabinets full of these things. I'm not sure how well it's going to show up because of the reflection off the glass. But yeah, I thought this is a nice little filler between different tasting videos. So you can see they've got the glass ones down here, and then they've got these big massive ones here. I've actually had a glass one like this before from a brewery in Freiburg in Germany before, but yeah, they've got even more of them over here. See, I love the artwork on these. You're obviously a lot of them are handmade. They're from, oh, there's the Kölner Dom, which is kind of cool. If you come over here, yeah, they've got even more of them. Lovely artwork, actually. I don't know if these are part of like a set or something like that. They look, because they all look kind of similar, actually. So I wonder if it's by the same factory or something like that. But, you know, quite interesting to see something like this all the way over in Singapore, of all places. Yeah, these are the ones, like these kind of ones down here. There you can see the Augustiner and the Hofbräu ones as well. You know, these are interesting. There's one from, I think that's from a Cool's brewery at the back. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, these are all pretty cool. There's the boot as well. But yeah, this is pretty interesting to see. There's a little beer stein museum here. They've also got some stuff just round here as well. So the Seriously Crafty museum too. So yeah, some nice glassware and things. This looks like it's their own stuff that they've done at different points in time. They've got their beer flight and so on. Some of their awards up here. And yeah, the Isla Porter. Oh, that sounds like something I would have loved. Shame they don't have it. But yeah, this looks like some of their beer tops and things like that. Some of the beer mats as well. These are pretty cool. This is the merch, obviously, this one. So I'm mixing this up. Yeah, they've got some of the merch here. You can buy some of the glasses and things like that. Yeah, looks very, very nice. You can get your hats as well, and different t-shirts. These look like they're the different beer badges for each of the things there, or you can just get the Little Islander. So yeah, that's a nice little look at the merch, the Beer Stein Museum and the Seriously Crafty Museum there. So yeah, make sure you have a look at this if you come to Little Island for sure. Alright guys, well, time for tasting number 3 here at Little Island Brewing. So Joe suggested that I have a little look at the Golden Ale, and that's a style that you don't come across all that often anymore, and it is actually quite difficult to get it right. So, you know, it was one of these moments where I was just like, you know what, it's like a fuck it, why not? So there we go. Yeah, you can see this beer, and this is the thing. The thing, as soon as we got handed it, it's like, oh, that's quite an amber Golden Ale. It is. It looks quite amber. But yeah, when it poured, a nice kind of just under a finger of a frothy, I would say, kind of cream coloured head there. It looks pretty nice. Quite a bit of carbonation visible on this one, so I'm wondering, is this going to be the elusive Little Island Brewing Crispy Boy? Who knows? But yeah, lovely kind of ambery colour to it, this one. Not unheard of for a Golden Ale, but like I say, if I put my hand behind this, you can see the proper colour of this beer. It is kind of akin to like an old school West Coast Pale Ale in terms of its colour. It really is a bit more akin to that. Crystal clear, of course. It looks nice. Is this one more of an English Pale Ale or an American, like an English Golden Ale, would you say?
So it's an English Golden. Yeah,
English
that's what
Golden.
it's meant to be.
Okay, right. Yeah, so this one, it should be quite interesting. Appearance wise, like I say, a little bit more amber than you might expect. But yeah, let's have a look at the nose. Oh yeah, absolutely. English ale yeast. The bread crust, it's got this mix of like white and brown bread. It's almost got like a little bit of like a peppery, grainy sort of thing to it. It's like if you take, back home in Scotland, we have this bread brand called Mother's Pride, and if you dip that in water and then smell it, it's like that. It really reminds me of that. There's something just like very familiar and very nostalgic about the aroma of this beer. So I have to say, Joe, good suggestion. This is I like this. You know, 4,000 odd reviews in, you get beers that make you think. That's what I want.
Yeah.
So yeah, the backbone of this beer, fresh, white bready, like hedgehog bread crust, absolutely. Mix of like white bread, brown bread, definitely. And then there's not too much of a sweetness to this one. There's maybe like a little hint of like McVitie's digestive biscuit or something. Yeah, a little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit. Almost has a little bit of that oatmeal porridgey type thing to it as well. As I say, mix of brown bread, white bread, bit of bread crust. Don't know if there's much else to say about the malty side of it, to be honest with you. The yeast gives you a little bit more of this crackery, woody sort of thing, and that's in the back of the nose, of course. Hoppy wise, this definitely smells like, you know, East Kent Goldings. It's not Fugos, it doesn't have that cigarette ashy thing. East Kent Goldings, I think, seem the most likely candidates for this, but it has this almost like dry apricot-y peachy note to it as well. So that makes me wonder, is there an American hop in here? Could be. Or maybe something from New Zealand, one of the lower alpha acids, like, you know, Raka or Iwaka, something like that. Could be interesting. Because just the way, there's just something setting off my memory about the fruit in this. And English hops don't give you that fruitiness, unless it's coming from the yeast. So yeah, the green component, a little bit earthy, a little bit herbal, has got some floral character to it, but again, this is really grassy and like wet, freshly cut grass. Yeah, it really is like that. Yeah, wet, freshly cut grass, a little bit of floral aromaticity to it. Yeah, the way everything goes together is quite interesting. Yeah, fruity wise, like I say, it's got a little bit of like, I do get a little touch of like peachy sharpness, apricot, papaya maybe. Oh, my food is coming. Wait a second, guys. I will pause this review a second, and I'll go and get my food and we'll come back. Alright guys, sorry about that. Yeah, my macaroni and my currywurst was ready, but the pizza's not. So yeah, Joe very kingly said he'll run and get my pizza. Let's finish this though. So, see, we're talking about the fruity side of things. Definitely like sultanas, dates, apricot, pear, these kind of fruits in this one. Yeah, it's an interesting beer, this. I've not, like I say, you don't come across too many golden ales these days. That bird sounds like it's being tortured. Okay, not new things for you on the channel. You don't normally get the birds in these videos, but there you go. Yeah, there we go. So, yeah, I think we've covered everything we need to about the aroma. Let's have a taste of this and see how we go. Yeah. Yeah. Very light, very easy drinking beer, this one, definitely. That's good. That is really, really nice. Yeah. It's interesting, this one. It's just a really enjoyable light beer, this one. Yeah. My brain is telling me I like this beer. How do I describe it? That's what my brain is telling me at the moment. So, it isn't too pungent in any particular regard, to be honest with you. It's actually just, this is one of these really nicely balanced beers. Yeah. It's, we'll just go through it. Middle third of your palate, fresh white bready bread crust in the base. Further forward, again, you've got that little typical bit of woodiness. Into the aftertaste, a little bit of cracker for sure. Wholemeal brown bread, white bread above that. Not really much in the way of sweetness to this one, maybe a tiny little hint of biscuit. Even in the dead centre of your palate, it's just like a little bit more of a concentrated biscuity flavour. I think that describes it quite adequately. Yeah.
Trying to nail it when you were talking about it. Remember Adam's Explorer?
Well, I don't know if I've ever had that actually. That's an interesting one.
This is a taste memory for me.
Oh.
That's classic British golden ale.
Maybe Harvesting Bitter and Twisted, my local brewery in Scotland. Kind of like that, but I think this is a bit... Bitter and Twisted is a bit more floral. This is quite neutral on its hoppy side actually. So I think we've covered the malty side of this beer. It has almost a little hint of like fudge into the aftertaste. I'm getting a little bit of like a fudgy note out of it. On the yeasty side of things, it's a little bit, yeah. On the yeasty side of things, there's a little bit of like woodiness, a little bit of light brown bread and stuff like this, bit of cracker, a bit of wood, rusticy, fresh sourdough bread or something like that.
What's tea like, no?
That's it. Yeah, I think that works. Yeah, it has a little bit of that almost tea leafy kind of thing to it. As well, I would say there's a little bit of earthy character on the hoppy side, and the back corners of that, a little bit earthy, a little bit herbal. As you come further forward, it's got a little bit more floral aromaticity to it. Not overly like bright and zesty or anything, quite wet actually. Round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and grassy, but I don't find this quite as like zesty and grassy as the other ones we had previously. But it is a golden ale. You have to remember the last beers were, the last beer was a lager, the next one was an IPA, and now we've had this. So yeah, this is interesting. This is definitely quite nice in that regard. Front third of your palate and the fruity side of things, bread crust in the base, brown bread, white bread above that, and then yeah, you've got a little bit of above that you've got a little bit of a kind of oily, fruity character, and the fruity character is quite interesting too. So the fruity side of this beer for me, it's quite, it's kind of like I was describing from the aroma. There's a little bit of pear, there's a little bit of apricot, there's a little bit of pear, a little bit of apricot, a little bit of like date and sultana and stuff like that. Maybe a little touch of like a juicy lime or something like that behind the very tip of the tongue, but mostly kind of dry fruity character coming out of this. Yeah, I like it. It's a really nicely balanced beer, this one. I'm guessing that this is by no means the most impressive beer that these guys do, but it's solid. And a golden ale is a difficult style to get right. It's not one that has really distinct parameters like, you know, even a German Pilsner or a Munich Helles or something like this. This is quite a broad style, but I think they've done a nice job of this actually. This is solid. And in terms of the lighter sessional beers, I might actually place this a little bit ahead of the lager that we had. I think this is a bit better than the lager, in my opinion. But yeah, I think mouthfeel wise, to round off, bottom end and mid-bodied. Carbonation does have a little bit more of a prickly character to it in this one. The malt base, bit dry underneath, smooth in the middle, very light touch of sweetness on top, quite a dry sweetness at that though. IBU wise, 20 at most, 15 wouldn't surprise me either. Gives you a bit of grassiness into the aftertaste, then yeah, you've got quite an oily fruity note to it as well. But all in all, a really nice beer. So this one was called, what was it, Sister Golden Ale. Sisterberg Golden Ale or something like that it was called.
Sister Golden Ale.
Sister Golden Ale, right, okay. 4.5% ABV. I think that's the nicest out of the two sessionable beers we've had so far. So yeah, good stuff once again. I think we're going to do another two tastings, so keep your eyes peeled. But food time, let's go. Alright guys, so 2 beers in, I'm very hungry, so we're going to have a little look at the menu. So it seems that they've got 2 different menus. They've got the tea time menu, which is the one that's available just now. So at the time that I'm here, these are the things we can get. Mashed potatoes, French fries, mac and cheese, all this kind of thing. Some currywurst, which sounds really, really nice. There's a lot of stuff here. Some different salads and things too. Yeah, and just for price reference, you're talking about 2 Singapore dollars is roughly £1 sterling. You times it by 5, and then you've got the Hong Kong dollar amount as well. So, for example, the mac and cheese will be about, you know, 50 Hong Kong dollars, so about £5 sterling, something like that. So the prices are actually pretty decent, I would say. Some desserts here as well, vanilla ice cream, the mac and cheese. They've got some sourdough pizza as well, so I think we'll need to try some of these things. So yeah, lots of different things. The pepperoni pizza I think is going to be nice, and the bacon one as well. These all look pretty good. So for a pizza, it looks like you're talking about 10, 15 pounds, something like that, which is pretty normal actually, pretty normal price. You can get all the different toppings and things there. But yeah, they've also got the weekend menu and things as well. So the lady was very kind and put this up for me so we can have a look at what you would get at different points. So yeah, lots of different starters there, truffle fries, French fries, mac and cheese, currywurst, different salads and things like that, some desserts and stuff. Kids meals too. A few different mains here, fish and chips, Cajun prawns, crispy pork belly, Wagyu beef brisket. That would be lovely actually, I'm very tempted by that, but I don't think it's on at the moment. Charcoal grill, again that sounds very good. Serious burgers, oh, that's the thing. As I say, I've heard very good things about the food here. Different pizzas as well. These are all very nice white pizzas and red pizzas and so on, different toppings. And then they do a Sunday roast as well. So, you know, a lot of people told me that if you come out to Little Island Brewing, the beers are solid, but the food is almost like the highlight. So yeah, we need to try something here, but that is your menu here at Little Island Brew Company in Changhi Village. Let's choose something and do it. Alright guys, so yeah, I was pretty damn hungry and I heard good things about the food here, so I wanted to try a few different things. So we're going to have a little look at the pepperoni pizza, because you can't go wrong with that. Got a little bit of mac and cheese, and they also had some currywurst, because, you know, I used to live in Germany. I love currywurst, and I'm really curious to see what the Singaporean take on it is, because there's a hell of a lot of like food diversity out here. So this will be a nice snack. Let's get started. Alright guys, so food review time, because as I say, a lot of people have told me Little Island Brewing, the beers are solid, but the food is the highlight. So yeah, this pizza is sourdough pizza, which I do really enjoy. See, it does look really nice actually. Crust looks good, it's got a little bit of oil to it, which you're going to get with pepperoni, but I think it should be good. Let's see. Yeah, that's nice, you know, good ready base. It's got a wee bit of the flour to it. It is fresh. I always feel like Gordon Ramsay when I do these things, you know. Although Gordon Ramsay doesn't sound that Scottish, but anyway. Yeah, this is really nice. The bready base of the pizza is good. The crust, let's see. Oh yeah, the crust is solid. I mean, correct me if my culinary terminology isn't quite right. Scottish people are not the most culinarily enlightened people, if that's even a word. But the crust on this is really nice. You always want your sourdough pizzas to just be that little touch raw and kind of chewy in a sense, and this pizza delivers on that. The salami on this one is quite nice. It's quite rich in a sense. You've got the good bit of herbal character coming out of the tomato sauce as well, and the herbs on the pizza. That's really solid actually. I'm going to enjoy the rest of this for sure. Yeah. That is really nice. Right, let's have a wee look at the mac and cheese then. So, take a little bit out the top here. It's got a big, thick, really got a very big, thick, kind of cheesy layer on the top. I mean, look at that. That's awesome. That's crazy. Let's have a little look. Yeah, very American style mac and cheese, this one. Quite mild in its flavour. It's nice enough. Could do with just a little bit more salt or pepper or something, just to season it that wee bit more. Very, yeah, like I say, very American style mac and cheese that. But it tastes American, but it has the more like European English consistency to it. It has a little bit of that New Zealand, Australia kind of cheddar thing. I wouldn't be surprised if the cheese in this is Aussie or Kiwi. I don't think it's English or Scottish. It's not quite strong enough for that. But it's quite nice. Yeah, it is nice enough. As I say, it just needs to be seasoned a little bit more, something like that. So yeah, pizza good, mac and cheese solid enough. Let's have a wee look at the currywurst then, see what this is like. So, one of the currywurst bits has a little bit of a charred end on it. We like a charred sausage. A big charred sausage is always good. Take the sexual innuendos as you want. Yeah. So there we go. There's your big charred bit of sausage there. Ooh. That's pretty good. It is different from what you're going to get in Germany. It is definitely different from what you're going to get in Germany. But I think it's sort of like the spiciness. This is an interesting sauce. It comes across a little bit more Southeast Asian, which makes sense. It's got a bit more sweetness to it, but in the end, it's got a quite dry spiciness to it. So yeah, definitely different to the currywurst you're going to find in Germany. If I remember rightly, currywurst is a thing more associated with Berlin in Germany than anywhere else. But this is solid enough. This is good. Let's take another wee look at that. But impact, talk about impact flavour. It's quite sweet in the beginning, and it gives you a wee bit more of a kind of peppery, green, almost like green peppery spice. And I don't normally like green peppers. I like red peppers. So Yeah. That's nice. That's good. Yeah. So, I think the currywurst might be my favourite thing out of the 3 things that I ordered. So, yeah, and that's just the start. I've got 2 starters and a pizza. All in all, really solid food, and people have told me the food is one of the highlights of the menu here, so I can see why. This is solid. Yeah, so currywurst number 1, pizza number 2, mac and cheese number 3, but all good food. Try the food when you come here. So yeah, let's leave it at that for the food review section of this video, and like I say, I think we're going to do another beer or 2. We'll catch you in a second. Cheers. Alright guys, so time for our 4th and final tasting then here at Little Island Beer Company, and this was Joe's suggestion, so do you want to introduce this one?
Yeah, so dry Irish, dry Irish stout, always my favorite go-to. It's an afternoon beer in Singapore. I've been selling this idea for the longest time. It's a really refreshing beer style, and usually about 4 to 5%. You know, it's like iced coffee in the afternoon. Perfect. Yeah,
it's interesting for me because this is honestly one of the things in Europe is that a stout for me is a finishing beer, and most of the craft breweries, it's very rare to find like a 4.5% stout these days in Europe at least. But then, you know, I remember Dragon Stout from Jamaica, and they love it.
Oh yeah, so
Dragon
tropical stouts, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so this is a surprise to me. So I think maybe the idea behind this, they call it dry Irish stout, but
yeah,
maybe it's like you could call it a Caribbean stout. So the actual name of this beer is That Old Black Magic. Did we say it was 5.5%? Yeah, so 5.5% anyway.
Yeah, style specific.
I think your one's got the better head than mine.
So I'm going to hold it up while you talk about it.
So yeah, you can see when this poured, obviously about a finger of a frothy kind of light beige fawny coloured head. Medium bubbles on the surface of the liquid, foamier as you go further up. The head's retaining quite well on this, I have to say.
Yeah.
And lovely sort of dark ebony rosewood colour.
Very
coming
creamy.
out of this
You can
one.
take a look at that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's not nitro conditioned, is it?
No, so this one's definitely not on a nitro tap, so it's coming off of a typical CO2 tap, but you can find, I always say when you find a nitro Irish stout on a nitro tap, go for it.
Yeah, I mean the thing for me with this one is we're serving this in an IPA glass, and I'm kind of like, that's maybe one of the things, maybe they need to get some like English style pint glasses for some of these beers, because they are old school English, British, Irish style beers.
Nice nonic pint.
Yeah, like
with a little hit.
Yeah, exactly. I think maybe they need that kind of glass for it, because for me this is an IPA glass, but still. Will we do the nose first this time then? We'll do that.
Yeah.
Very classic. Like it is. You know, I forget what was it called, the Black Douglas from Broughton Brewery in Scotland, or March of the Penguins from Williams Brothers. You know, you've got other Irish breweries now. I mean, there's a lot of Irish craft breweries now are doing these dry stouts, and they're better than the likes of, you know, Murphy's and Guinness and so on. There's one particular brewery I want to mention, but the name's gone right out of my head. They've got so many venues across Dublin now. But yeah, this is proper also, and I will say, what I look for in this style is authenticity, and you know how close they are to what you'd find in Ireland. And this is, aroma-wise, this is damn solid. Yeah, we have to say that. So
on my nose, dry Irish stout always has so more of an Asian reference to the ume, especially black ume. So like a black sour plum almost.
Yeah.
It's got all that smoky complexity with a hint of fruitiness. You know.
Yeah. I mean, for me, you get toasty, like well-fired bread crust. Certainly some rye bread in there, wholemeal brown bread as well. Woodiness, slight nuttiness.
Yeah.
A little bit of a toasty brown sugar.
You get that wet earthiness that you get from like coffee grounds.
Oh yeah, definitely. I get a little bit of an almost marshmallowy note out of this. You know, like toasty, s'more marshmallow. So it has got this wee bit of like vanilla to it. You were you should say what you were mentioning earlier about chocolate malt.
Yeah. So again, one of the quirks of brewing stouts in Singapore is that a lot of local brewers tend to omit chocolate malt, which I think for me, on my palate at least, gives you kind of that missing piece, that transition piece between kind of the end of the mid palate when you're transitioning to kind of the finish. It kind of drops off, right? You get this roastiness and, you know, a lot of the kind of characteristic flavors of stout, but you don't kind of get that nice smooth transition, and that's kind of the thing that's always missing for me in a locally brewed stout, which is interesting. So
Yeah, because one of the things I would say for me, from my point of reference, is I get a lot of people. You see a lot of people who talk about chocolate flavors in quadruples, doppelbocks.
Yeah.
And I don't like that because they don't have chocolate malt in them.
No,
They don't. It's brown sugar. For
Yeah.
me, there's a very big distinction between a black beer and a brown beer. And you know, quadruples and doppelbocks are brown
right.
beers. They're not black beers like stouts and porters are. So this is it's almost a bit like a pet hate in a sense. So it's interesting to talk about these things, I think, as well, because this very clearly defines itself for me as a black beer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So you get that, you get that nice transition. So again, you know, for me, it's always a question of the journey, the palate journey. When you drink a beer, is it a nice, smooth tasting that you get, or do you get flavor peaks? And for me, a well brewed beer, a well balanced beer is always smooth, right? You get this nice transition from one flavor to another. The palate moves from front to the middle to the back, and it's always beautiful. And you don't kind of get that harshness or that abruptness, I guess is what I'm saying. So, you know, stout is always, you know, for me, it's always, in terms of the palate, I'm always looking for a smooth transition, right?
Yeah.
And you get that nice smooth mouthfeel from nitro. You know, you want to kind of have that same thing on the palate as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, for me, there's a lot of like brown sugar in here. There's a bit of a leathery brown sugar, toasty caramel, more oily caramel as well. On the chocolatey side, it does have a bit of chocolate for me. It's got like a sort of, you know, 40-50% cocoa chocolatey note to it, something like that. Hoppy wise, it's quite common to use Fugels in these beers. I'm not sure if that's the case here though. It smells like it could be It smells like it could be Bramling's Cross or not Styrian Goldings. That's Slovenian East Kent Goldings.
EKG.
Yeah. So it's got that earthy herbal smoothness to it. But it has got a little bit of floral, woody. Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Little bit of floral and wet grassiness.
Yeah. You get a bit hint of mint as well, no? Get a little bit of mintiness to it. Yeah.
I can see why you'd say that. Like a spear, not is it spear?
No, not spearmint. We're talking about like Thai mint, maybe like something a little more mild.
Oh yeah, that's going to annoy me now because there's a specific type of mint that I know that it's not peppermint either. What's it called?
Yeah.
Soft mint, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
so I'm going to be hyper local and, you know, call this like, again, you know, this is the kind of minty flavor that I expect out of a Thai or Thai or Vietnamese noodle soup, where you have that fresh basket of greens and that mint is sitting right there. And you can see the kind of like little bit of spicy peppery bite, but without kind of the aggressive, fresh, you know, toothpastey sort of minty expression. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, fruity wise, bit of blackcurrant, bit of fig.
Absolutely, dark stone fruit, plum, date comes through as well a little bit. Yeah. So for porters, I think for me at least, porters have a bit more of a fruit expression. This one's there for sure. You get a bit of it's definitely from the ale esters or from the ale. You know, it's definitely it's an ale for sure. So in terms of the fermentation esters are coming through, a little fruity.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's. I'm going to have my first sip of this one then. Let's do that. So we'll say Slanja and to Joe,
cheers.
Thank you for joining on this video and showing me a little bit of Singapore.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, thank you so much for having me. We'll do cheers in Singapore.
Yeah.
Kampe.
And I'm sure we'll be back. We'll do some other videos together. I'll be back in Singapore. I like Singapore, so I will be back, and no doubt we'll do something else again when Alive get their tap room.
Oh.
When Alive get their own tap room.
Yeah.
Or Sunbird.
Someday.
Or Osmanthus or some of these other little guys that are very underground just now, because there's some really good like not even micro brewers, pico brewers or something like that.
Yeah.
Pico meters, I remember that. Yeah. Slanja anyway, guys. Gambe.
Cheers.
Yeah. Ooh, that's good. And guys, I'm going to say, I'm so bloody full just now. The pizza, the currywurst and the mac and cheese, it seemed like a good idea. I enjoyed it. Now it seems like it was a bad idea. But that's going to be the only thing I eat today, so...
Well,
yeah.
you know, the pains you endure for your audience, right?
Exactly.
Things that you do.
Yes. But I will say, Joe made a good shout with doing Joe wanted to do the stout. I think it was second beer, and I was like, no, let's do this last.
Yeah.
But yeah, good shout to point this one out.
Everybody's palate's a little different. You know, this is usually my session beer. I usually crush this one right away, and yeah, then I'm ready for something bigger. But everybody's palate's a little different. So explore your palate, because you know, again, at the day, I think palate exploration is all about self-discovery almost. No?
Oh, definitely. I mean, and I have to say, drinking this, I can see why you call it a session stout.
Yeah.
Because it is actually remarkably drinkable. And this is the thing, like, it's really nice and creamy. Middle of the palate, toasty, well-fired bread, like bread crust in there. Smooth, you know, above that, there's a little bit of woodiness, there's a bit of cracker, not too much cracker, more woody.
Yeah.
Rye bread, wholemeal brown bread, a little bit of nuttiness into the aftertaste. And I would say the more that you go, the bready character sort of expands and gets taller on the palate almost.
Yeah.
Then you have like a sort of chocolatey note, 40-50% cocoa chocolate, like not, it has got a bit of milky chocolate character to it, but it's also got a little bit of dark. It's right in the middle of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Toasty brown sugary layer above that, toasty caramel, leathery caramel in the middle of the palate. Is there anything else we should say about like that middle third of your tongue?
Yeah. So again, you know, for me, very black bready.
Yeah.
You know, it's again, I think that bread expression is coming through quite nicely, but not in a way that is filling or I don't know. I think that again, it has a very sessionable palate on this one. So again, it's not such. In Singapore, there's a very typical expression. It's called gao, which means once you eat it, it feels full. You feel full, right? And with this beer, it doesn't kind of give you that impression of fullness, no?
Yeah, no. This is, for me, this is really interesting because of how sessionable it is.
Yeah, because
so this is completely different for me compared to, because you know, in Scotland you want these beers on cask. I don't like cask ale very much, but a lot of that is because English cask. I think English hops don't suit light beers. I think they suit darker beers better.
And you know, again, you know, based on the temperature that you're drinking this beer at and the ambient temperature, I mean, this is not a beer that you want to kind of sit on the counter for too long anyway, because you want to have it. You want to kind of kill it. It's definitely not a dessert stout. You definitely don't want to have it with dessert. You know, it's a good opener. Think of it as, you know, nitro cold brew, right? From Starbucks.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Yeah, I wouldn't say this beer has coffee flavour though. I don't find this one very coffee-like.
No. Other than coffee grounds, right? It's kind of, it has wood, kind of like a wet campfire. You know, when you put a campfire out. Yeah.
Yeah, no, in fairness, it does have a wee bit of a latte type thing to it. I'm not a big, I love coffee beans as an adjunct in imperial stouts, but I actually don't drink coffee very much. Very rare, like almost never. Something I just never got into it, you know.
Yeah. So again, just the way this one's served, it's served off of a traditional tap, so with the CO2, it's a little prickly. But I can see that if you serve this off of a nitro, it would be really smooth and then even more coffee-like.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I do like it like this, and as I say, this is the thing for me that's unique about this, is finding a 4.5, 5?
5.5.
5.5, yeah. Finding a stout at this ABV, just poured like that, is quite unusual in the craft beer world. I can see why in Singapore with the temperature and things, you know, it's quite nice. It's almost, you know, this particular stout is as sessionable as say like a Schwarzbier or a Czech Tmavi. Yeah. If you gave me this blind, I'd probably guess it was a Schwarzbier maybe, and maybe a Tmavi, because it's very smooth. Yeah. So I might lean more toward that Czech side. Yeah. Of things. Yeah.
So it's, of course, it's lacking the smokiness of a Rausch. Yeah. Rausch malt or Rausch beer. Yeah.
It is very like Tmavi or Schwarzbier like this one, but it's good. I like it. I like this. The question should always be, you know, you can talk about styles all day, but the question should be, do you like the beer? Yes. Hoppy side of things with this one, definitely earthy. Pretty sure there's English hop in this. Fugo, maybe Kent Goldings, or Bramling's Cross, maybe a little bit. So earthy, herbal, little bit floral, grassy around the front curve of your tongue, front third of your palate. There's a bit of brown bread crust in the base. and then yeah, you get that nice fruity sort of thing out of it as well. The fruity side for me is quite figgy, blackcurrant-y, a little bit of raisin.
A bit jammy, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, more preserved fruit, right? Yeah.
It's got a little bit of that, yeah, that like, I don't know, not strawberry jam, blueberry, blackcurrant
Oh yeah,
jam
for
kind
sure.
of thing.
Yeah. So
yeah,
more preserves.
Yeah, plum, fig,
Yeah.
raisin, black currant, not sharp enough to be blackberry,
Yeah.
and maybe not tart enough to be blueberry either.
Yeah,
it's more of a
this-
currants rather than
Oh,
berries.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's a very, I don't know. It's berry compote comes to mind.
Yeah, that's solid though. I can see why you like that. So yeah, for me, as a fan of Schwarzbiers and Tamavis, it would be because of the wet. And again, this is the thing: the mouthfeel that you get from Little Island is very wet. And when you experience the temperature and the climate here, you can understand. For me, I mean, look how white I am. Basically, like, you know, you can understand why they want drinkable beers here. It's so obvious. And you notice this from country to country. Like if you go to Slovenia, we were talking about Slovenia earlier. If you go there, their beers are very oily because their wines are very oily.
Yeah.
You notice little things like this when you go country to country with beer.
Yeah.
So this is a very light, wet stout, and it's interesting. It is interesting, and it's good. It's well done. You can't ask for much more than that. So mouthfeel wise, bottom end of mid-bodied for me, but maybe top end of light-bodied. So very light for a stout from my point of reference. For you, it's quite normal.
Yeah.
It's like you said, the carbonation does have a bit of a prickle, but again, I find the mouthfeel of these beers quite wet. RBU wise, I think maybe 30,
20, yeah,
20
to
30,
30,
40
yeah, very
IBUs
low.
at most. But again, pardon me, you can conflate dryness and bitterness with this one quite easily, the roastiness and so on. The malt base has a bit of sweetness to it, a bit of dryness mainly, and a bit of smoothness in the middle. And the fruitiness is like, you know, curranty, slightly oily, but still quite wet.
Oh, it's very wet. So again, you know, this style of beer is it's a little unusual even in Singapore, because right now the rage is you know, imperial stouts, right? Especially imperial pastry stouts, where you get a lot of that kind of sweet pastry element to it. So there's usually, you know, tons of oatmeal or tons of lactose in the stout, right? It gives it a very nice, you know, and you wouldn't have more than, you know, a tiny taster for dessert, right?
Yeah, well, I have to notice that is one of the things I think Singapore could do a bit better, and is giving you smaller measures of stuff, so you can taste everything as a tourist. Like, I think that's something, like you only really see 330s or 473s here, which is American pints or European bottles. So that's maybe something that needs to change, but maybe that will come later.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the evolution as well, because beers don't sit very well. So if you had a flight of like small ones, by the time you got to the end of the flight, that beer would be totally warm too.
Oh, yeah,
so
exactly.
you know, again, ambient temperature is key. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a different style of ordering here. That's fair to say. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. This has been a really nice one, and as I say, too full probably to do another review. But
And,
you never know.
With this solid beer, there's no need to overthink it. At the end of the day, it's just a satisfying thirst quencher on the dark end. You know, especially if you're considering something pale. It's not always pale that's thirst quenching.
No, exactly. Yeah. But
By
yeah,
our Irish style.
this one was That Old Black Magic 5.5% Irish Dry Stout. I would say it's quite true to style, very smooth as well. So yeah, happy with this one. I think that's a good point to round off the reviews here. I'll go over and give you my final thoughts on our time here at Little Island Brewing Company, and I'll catch you guys with that in just a second. Again, thank you to Joe for joining. I'll put his Instagram in the video description below, so give him a follow and you'll get some interesting pictures of Singaporean
thank you so much.
craft beer.
Absolutely,
and things. So,
absolute pleasure.
Cool. So we'll go.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Alright guys, well that's the end of my time here at Little Island Brewing Company in Changi Village here in Singapore. So yeah, I had a really nice couple of hours here. It was really cool that Joe of Dr. Joe on Instagram came and joined me. He just messaged me after my video that I posted about Pink Blossoms Brewing Company. So yeah, it was quite interesting to meet him, chat to him, hear about his experiences there, and learn a little bit more about the Singapore beer scene. But yeah, it was cool to do some tastings with him, and I'm sure that at some point we will film a wee bit more together in the future. Probably when the likes of like Sunbird and Alive and Osmanthus and stuff have their own tap rooms. That would be some really cool footage that we get there. But yeah, to Little Island Brewing Company itself. I'd heard before I came here that these guys did some solid beers, but they were a bit better known for their food. And you know, I can kind of see that. Their beers are really nice, solid, sessionable and drinkable, but their food is really solid as well. So all in all, I had a really nice experience here. We tried their lager, then we had a sort of West Coast IPA, a golden ale, and then we finished off with an Irish stout. So most of those are styles that are not madly popular these days, although yeah, the lager and the West Coast IPA are becoming more and more popular again. But they were all really nice and solid beers, and you know, I had a really nice experience. Cool to meet Joe, cool to film a little bit, and definitely cool to show you guys some beer from Singapore on the channel, which I don't think has really been covered on YouTube actually. So yeah, really positive experience here. I think in total I spent 50 Singapore dollars on the food, which is about £25 sterling. Joe actually ended up buying all the beers, which he really didn't need to, but I'm guessing he spent somewhere in the region of like 50 or 60 Singapore dollars on me. So yeah, that's about £30. So I think in total everything I had here came to about £55 sterling, £60 sterling, something like that. So that was really cool actually. But all in all, very positive experience here at Little Island Brewing Company. I'd recommend that you come out here. I'm going to go and have a wee walk around the park and things that are over there. It is a little bit hard to get out here. You have to use the MRT and a bus and things like that. But yeah, all in all, it was a very positive experience. So this is their OG location. They do have other ones across the city. Go and visit one of them and enjoy it. But yeah, I think we'll leave it at that. So yeah, this was Little Island Brewing Company in Changi Village in Singapore, their original location. Some really solid beers here and good food. So come and check it out, and go to some of the other places around Singapore and try the local brews. But let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on Little Island Brewing Company's beers, and we will see if we can do some sit-down reviews from these guys at some point in the future. But yeah, you'll see Joe on the channel again at some point, I'm sure. Make sure you give him a like and a share and all of that kind of stuff as well. Until the next time, Slàinte, Scott, cheers, and see you guys soon. Ciao just now.